Tehillim Kuf Lamed Aleph 131, David HaMelech says, Hashem legova libi, my heart wasn't hoardy. V'lo romu einai, I never lifted up my eyes. V'lo lachti b'gdolos u'v'neflois mimeni. The Zohar HaKadosh expounds that David HaMelech, with his greatness, with his power, with his might, he ruled over so many people. He was so great in Torah. Nevertheless, he never became haughty. He always had fear of Hashem. His humility was always front and center of everything he did, to the point that the Zohar HaKadosh writes that when he used to learn Torah, he had such fear of Hashem as he was learning, such humility, that he didn't lift up his eyes. He kept his eyes down. He was trembling, the fact that he was standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem lo gava libi v'lo romu einai, I didn't even lift up my eyes out of humility when I was studying Torah. And the Zohar HaKadosh concludes that if David HaMelech, the great King David, with everything he had, stayed so humble, us, Alachas kama v'kama, how much more so, how much humility do we need to show, how much fear of Hashem do we need to show when we're learning Torah, when we're serving Him. Tehillim Kuf Lamed Beis 132, David HaMelech writes, Zechor Hashem leDavid, remember, is kol unoisai, all my suffering that I've been through in my life. The Mechalta, our sages expound on this pasuk. Now there's another pasuk in Tehillim where it says, Mizmor Shir Chanukas L'Bayis David. The Beis HaMikdash is named after David. And we know that David was not the one that built the Beis HaMikdash. But Shlomo, his son, was the one that built it. So why is it named after David? Says the Mechalta, because David spent his entire life. He went through so much. Everything he was doing was about trying to build the Beis HaMikdash. And because he put in so much into it, he put his nefesh, he put his soul into it, it's named after him. And this is what it means. Zechor Hashem es kol unoisai. Remember all my suffering. Remember how much I put into everything. And Hashem said, yes, I'm going to name it after you. And we see from here that even if we don't succeed in doing something in action, but if we tried and we put our soul into doing something, that thing will be named after us. It will be considered our credit. Tehillim Kuf Lamed Gimel, a pretty famous pasuk in Imatov u'Manaim. How good and how pleasant is it, Shavas Achim Gam Yachad, when brothers come together. The Malbim has an amazing explanation of this pasuk. It's not just talking about any brothers, it's talking about Yisachar and Zevulun. Because we know that Yisachar and Zevulun had a partnership. Yisachar was the one that studied Torah, Zevulun did the business, and he supported Yisachar. And our sages teach us that anyone can make such a partnership. That one will study and the other one will support the other person, and they'll share the reward. And this is what it means. Matov u'Manaim. Tov, good, refers to reward in the world to come. Na'im, pleasantness, refers to life, which is pleasant in this world. Shavas Achim Gam Yachad, when two brothers come together in such a unique partnership, that one of them is willing to say that I will support you to study Torah all day, and through that I'll have a share in your world to come. Then it's Tov and it's Na'im. It's good for both of them in the world to come, and it's Na'im and it's pleasant for both of them in this world. In Tehillim 134, David writes, in a Baruch es Hashem, bless Hashem, kol avdei Hashem, all the servants of Hashem, the omdim beveis Hashem baleilos, those who stand in the house of God in the nighttime. What does it mean, those who stand in the house of Hashem in the nighttime? So the Chida writes something fascinating. And he says, one may think that today in exile, there's no point and there's no benefit in living in Eretz Yisrael. And he says it's not true. Even today, there are many, many benefits to living in Eretz Yisrael, even though we're in exile. And one of them, he says, is that prayer that's done in Eretz Yisrael goes straight up, directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No intermediaries, no angels. It goes straight from our mouths, straight up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is what it means in a Baruch Hashem, those who bless Hashem, Kol Avdei Hashem, all those servants who understand, Ha'omdim Beveis Hashem Baleilis, that they still live in Eretz Yisrael. Today in the nighttime, Galus, exile, is referred to as nighttime. And they understand that even today there's so much benefit to living in the land of Israel. And one of them is that prayer in Eretz Yisrael goes straight up directly to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tehillim Kuf Lamed Hey 135. David HaMelech writes, Ki ani yodati ki gadol Hashem. I know that Hashem is great. What does this mean that I know that nobody else knows? So Reb Nachman of Breslov writes, based on the words of the Zohar, where the Zohar explains that Kol Chad L'fumma de Mesha'ir B'libe. Every person has their own relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everyone knows in their heart, their feelings in this relationship. Relationships are private, and they can't necessarily be explained in words. But everybody has their own life experience, and everybody's neshama comes from a different place. And everyone knows where they stand in this special, special relationship that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ki ani yadati ki gadol Hashem. I know personally my own relationship of what I have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mine is not the same as yours. It's personal, it's deep, it's totally within me. Ki ani yadati. I'm the only one that knows it. Tehillim Kuf Lamed Vav 136. The pasuk says, "La'osei nifla'os gedolos levado ki la'olam chasdei." Hashem does wonders, great wonders, and He does them levado. He does them alone by Himself. So the Zohar HaKadosh, the Holy Zohar, expounds and writes that people have no idea how many miracles are taking place at any given moment, and they are saved from things that they didn't even know that they were in danger from. And the Zohar writes that a person could wake up in the morning and there could be a snake near him that's about to bite him and kill him. And suddenly the person lifts up their arm for another reason, just to scratch their head, and that scares away the snake and they were saved. And they have no idea, and they walk along as if nothing happened. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that knows that this person almost died and they were saved with a miracle. Hashem does so many miracles to us all the time at any moment, and we don't even know about them. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what He's saving us from all the time. Tehillim Kuf Lamed Zayin, where David is describing how we went into exile and we sat al Naros Bavel, we sat at the rivers of Babylon, Shem Yashavnu, we sat there, Gam Bachinu, and we cried, we wept. B'zachrenu Asiyam, and we remembered Yerushalayim and the Beis HaMikdash. The Chidar writes an unbelievable thing. He writes that as we're sitting there by the rivers of Babylon, there was an element of joy, and that is that we saw that the Shekhinah, that the divine presence was with us. Just like we went into exile, the divine presence came with us, and there was an element of joy that yes, we're in exile, but we're surrounded with the Shekhinah. Gam bachinu, but then we started crying because we realized that it's nice to have the divine presence with us. But how hard must it be for the Shekhinah to be out of its place, to not be in Yerushalayim, to not be in the Beis HaMikdash. So we sat there and we cried, not so much about us, but about the pain, so to speak, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of the Shekhinah, that's not in its rightful place in Yerushalayim and the Beis HaMikdash. David opens up Tehillim Kuf Lamed Ches 138, and he says, Odcha b'chol libi, I praise you, Hashem, with my entire heart. What does this mean, my entire heart? The Chidar writes that we have inside our heart, on the right side, on the left side, the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov. There are two inclinations, and each one is fighting for attention. The good inclination and the evil inclination. And they're on different sides of the heart, and they pull us in either way. David HaMelech, in his exalted level, reached the point where he eradicated his Yetzer Hara. He didn't have an evil inclination anymore. And therefore his entire heart was on one track, was on one mission, to do out what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. And he was able to say the words, Odcha b'chol libi, I praise you with all my heart. Even my Yetzer Hara side, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. There's only one thing that my heart wants to do at any given moment, and that is to serve and bring about Hashem's glory into this world. In Tehillim Kuf Lamed Ches 139, David HaMelech writes, Im esak shamayim sham'ata. If I ascend to the heavens, you're right there with me. V'atziyah sha'ol. If I descend to the lowest depths, hineka, you're there with me too. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov explains, a person has to know, going through life, two things which sounds like the opposites. It sounds like they can't exist together, but they're both true. One of them is to know that even if we're at a high level, we're in a lofty place. Im esak shamayim, we've reached the heavens. Sham achta, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is way beyond that. He's even higher than that. Don't stop. You're never going to get to the end. It's an infinite journey of how high we can go. But also know that that even if the person reaches the bottom, the lowest depths, don't think HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not right there with you in the place where you are. Hineka. Hashem says, I'm right there with you. If you get to the top, I'm even higher. But at the bottom, I'm right there with you to catch you. We'll climb back up together. Tehillim 140, David writes, Elokim Hashem oz Yeshuasi. Hashem, my master, you're my strength of my salvation. Sakosa leroshi b'yoim nashek. You have afforded my head protection on the day of arming for battle. So Rav Hirsch writes in his commentary on Tehillim that David the Malach is saying that many times in life we're in situations where what a regular person would do is reach for a weapon. We're in danger, we're in physical danger, which seems to necessitate reaching for a weapon and arming ourselves. But David realizes that Hashem is really the one that's going to save him. And instead of reaching for his weapon, he reaches out to his relationship that he has with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He invokes his amunah, his faith in Hashem, and Hashem is there for him. But Yom Nashik, on the day which without HaKadosh Baruch Hu in his life, he would have had to reach for a weapon. We don't need that because we have HaKadosh Baruch Hu looking out and saving us at any given moment.